Alright, so here's the gauge I was talking about that I'm going to run. Perfect tuning gauge. It fits in a 2 16 hole. It's pretty slick, or pretty shallow, I mean. I'm going to put it on the console. Just odometer makes a deal. Stick on the console. Stick it in there like this, right? So wiring, and again, we're just kind of making sure it works, and then we'll make it permanent later. That'll go in there. That'll fit in like that, and then that'll eventually go in the center console. So there's only 4 wires that you need if you're just hooking it up. So out of the computer, can high and can low, which is the blue with the yellow stripe and the blue with the red stripe, and then it'll hook to the brown and the purple of the perfect tuning, and then the red and the black go to power. So the brown goes to the yellow. Nice and pretty there. And the purple goes to the red. And then the solid red goes to power, and then the black goes to and then you can scroll through and change a lot of the stuff, right? You hold them down, and it highlights it. Then you hold it down again, and then you can go through and change to a bajillion different things in there. We're just going to keep it pretty simple for right now. So there's that. So later we'll make that look pretty. So a little bit on actually installing the ECU. So take the original one out. So this is a C3P1, which is the calibration code for first gen Lightning. So I'm going to hang on to that because I may use it. You never know. So you get it out, and you got, the only thing you really got to do on these is you've got to move 3 pins, and you've got to drill the plastic on some of them and what it looks like. So this is one of these things here, right? So you got to get rid of this and get a hole. So you drill it, and I mean ever so slightly. You don't have to get real carried away, but you drill. There's kind of a square cut on them. I don't know if you can see that. Might be able to see it on that pretty good. Tan with the dirt lines on it. But anyway, you only want to drill just through the thickness of the plastic that's right here. Drill just enough that it gets this thing broke free. And then before you do anything else, turn this thing over and push it out of the connector nozzle. And before you'd probably go ahead, instead of messing with that one down in there, I had another one laying around. Get this thing out. It keeps all the pins from falling out of there. So get that out of the way. And then once you drill the plastic, it'll be down inside here. Flip it over and push it out and get that thing out of there. You can put it back in one of the ones that you move, because you're going to move 3 of them. You got to move pin 55 to 5, which is the converter close clutch solenoid. You got to move 52 to 54, which is shift solenoid 1, and then transmission oil temperature. And the reason being is the way they build these things, 55 is used for something else, warm up, used for fan jumper or whatever, not going to use that. 52 is injector 8 if you are running sequential, and 42 is, did I say that right? Yeah, 52, 40, and 42 is injector 7, which eventually I will do. Right now I'm still going to run at batch fire just to keep everything simple, and then when I actually switch it all over, I'll go to sequential. So 5 turns into converter close clutch, 54 turns into shift solenoid 1, and 18 turns into transmission oil temperature. So that's the reason for that. And changing those over is not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit time consuming. Two or three different ways of doing it. You can use one of these things and try to get in here. And try to get in here over the wiring. I'm not a fan of those. Well, some places are, but this one here, I think it's easier to get if you have something long enough, small enough. You can reach down in there. If you look in there real good, I don't think you'll be able to see it on film, but there's a little tab that holds these things in. If you push in on them just a little bit, you can get down there and lean that thing back and then pull them out. If you've got one of these, they work pretty good too. If you don't have one of these, yeah, you can find something, right? You get in there and just, all you gotta do is get on that thing just a little bit. Sometimes if they're pulled on, it'll hold that plastic tab over. Just like that. So you pull it out and then you move it to the one you want it to go into. And then when you push it in, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but it'll click. And then you pull on it, it's fine. Then you put your thing back in. look at it 14 times, see which way it goes, and then switch it around, because you'll never get it right the first time. I don't anyway. So there you go. So you move the 3 pins, drill the holes out, move the 3 pins, move them around, and then get the computer ready. So map sensor built in, so you're not going to use the factory one. So when the cover goes on, it's hard, it's plastic around it, but there's one spot right here that's rubber, soft all the way through. So you notch that and play around with it a little bit, notch it to where you get this through, right? And then you can put it in. So then the expansion port that I will be using on this thing, it plugs in here, right? So these 3, I put them in, or I had Stinger put them in for the USB, or the DB9 serial port to plug into the computer. Right, and then the other 2 I put in is the CAN bus, low and high, for the perfect tuning gauge that I'll be putting in, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. So if you can put it in now, but if you get it part way in, you can get it in from the inside. You can use, I think I talked about earlier, you can use the USB, but then you got to take the bracket out that's in there, do a lot of, well, you don't have to do a lot, but you got to do some fabrication to it, cut it. I know I was going to use all the rest of this stuff, so I'm just going to use it that way. Put that down and out of the way. That in. Oh, and when you're messing with this, I highly recommend writing down, there's 60 pins, so it's 1 through 20, 21 through 41, or 21 through 40, and 41 through 60. So I wrote them down on here, because when you're flipping back and forth and you're changing stuff around, you want to make sure that you're hitting the right thing. So different ones are labeled in different places. This one's actually got them labeled right on here. And you can read them, but why sit there and search for it? Figure out which one it is, and then write it on here. That way when you're messing around with it, you don't have to think about it again. All you got to do is look over and see where it's at. Stick that back on. Make sure the port's there. And then plug. And again, this is going to be just down and dirty. Get it operational. When I go to final fitment, it'll be neat and orderly, but I just want to see proof of concept to get it to work. Put the retainers back on. There you go. So between moving a couple pins, changing from the factory map sensor. I'll use my words here in a minute. And then the factory map sensor, taking it out of the system and switching the pins around. That's about it. Until you go to do sequential or turbo or any kind of boost or nitrous, and there's all sorts of auxiliary fan that you can add, subtract to this thing. So there's that part. So I'll reach down in there, plug this in, then I'll plug the computer back in, do whatever, and then I'll show you the gauge that I'm going to run eventually. Okay, so here is the plug. If you got to get the kick panel off, but it's right there. There's the back side of the ECU. So wiggle your hand up there, cut both sides of your hand 10 or 12 times, it'll be fine. Skin grows back, don't worry about it. So we'll plug that into there, and then hopefully show you the gauge here in a minute. All right, after fighting that longer than I care to admit, took the computer back out, routed that thing in there. I'm going to plug it in here, and then fish it backwards. So we'll go that way, put that back in, pull the wires back. Make sure they don't get pinched or caught on something. All right, there we go. We'll just throw that around a little bit. Okay. So I've been working on the installation of the wideband EGO. Run into a little bit of a snag, and I'll show you what I've run into and what we've got going on. So Spartan 2 is the setup I'm using, and easy enough with the Pimp setup. They tell you pretty much what to do with the thing. Power, obviously red. The signal, pin 29 going back to the computer. Your green wire from your Spartan 2 hooks up to your black wire. It says 46 or 20. That's where I ran into the problem. And then the white goes back to chassis ground, same as the egg relay. So anyhow, come over here and you can see we've got your red is hot, so you can use, if you cut your plug off, you can use a lot of the same wiring. So your red goes to your hot, your white goes to your ground. The green goes back to pin 29, and the black says to go to either 46 or 20. Well, according to the EVTM, that wire comes back and ties together and goes back to 46. Well, it doesn't. It comes back to 49, but this is not connected here. Out of screen, sorry about that. So I cut that back apart. So we started out, get that into frame. Started out the red from the Spartan 2 down here. And right now I'm just making sure everything works. So when I take everything out and change it over, engine and everything, I'll clean it up and make it look better. But so it goes to the purple and orange right up here, power. The white goes to black, ground. The green goes back to the gray with the light blue, back to 29. And the black was going to go to the orange, coming back here. Well, it didn't work, so ended up cutting that off, putting the black to another wire, coming over and just sticking it into the EC4 connector, because that's the same wire, right? So right now it's just plugged into there. After I get everything done, we'll actually make that look right. But it's a little down and dirty right now, but as funny as that is, that works. That is the same wire that goes back to the pin, the correct pin. So when all that is said and done, and it is on the when you fire up, I'll turn all this stuff off. Kill that. When you turn this on, get everything going. Let's see if I can do this at the same time. Whoa. Glare back over there. So watch the air fuel gauge. It'll come up to a set 13.3 and then 16.6, and then it'll start reading. And that's how you know that it's powered correctly and coming in and reading right. And that's what it wasn't doing earlier. And I couldn't figure out why. But now it goes to 13.3, 16.6, and then it'll read whatever it's reading. And then fire it up. Start reading normal. So anyway, got the O2 in, wired up, ready to go. So on to the next step.